Welcome to Chanel the latest. The ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia has been marked by violence, aggression, and human rights violations on both sides. The conflict began in 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea, and tensions have been high ever since. In recent years, both Ukraine and Russia have accused each other of aggression, with frequent clashes occurring in the region. One recent incident that has garnered a lot of attention is the destruction of hundreds of Russian Wagner soldiers by Ukrainian drones in the city of Bakhmut. The incident has raised questions about the effectiveness and ethics of using unmanned aerial vehicles in combat situations, as well as the ongoing conflict in the region. According to reports, Ukrainian drones targeted a gathering of Russian Wagner mercenaries who were hiding in a wooded area near Bakhmut, a city in eastern Ukraine. The attack was carried out with precision and resulted in the deaths of hundreds of soldiers. The Russian government has denied any involvement in the incident, but the Ukrainian government has stated that the attack was a response to ongoing aggression by Russia in the region. The use of drones in modern warfare has become increasingly common in recent years, with many militaries using them for reconnaissance, surveillance, and even combat. The advantages of drones are clear. They are able to gather intelligence and carry out attacks without putting human pilots at risk. However, the use of drones has also raised a number of ethical and legal questions, particularly in situations where civilians may be at risk. One of the main concerns with the use of drones in combat is the potential for civilian casualties. While drones are able to gather intelligence and carry out attacks with precision, there is always the risk of collateral damage. In situations where civilians are present, the use of drones can be particularly risky, as there is always the potential for unintended casualties. Another concern with the use of drones is the potential for abuse. Because drones are unmanned, they can be used in situations where traditional military forces may be hesitant to engage. This can make it easier for military forces to engage in extrajudicial killings or other forms of violence that may violate international law. Despite these concerns, the use of drones in modern warfare is likely to continue. As technology continues to advance, drones are likely to become even more sophisticated and effective, making them an increasingly important tool for militaries around the world. In the context of the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia, the use of drones has been a key strategy for both sides. Both Ukraine and Russia have used drones for surveillance and reconnaissance, and both sides have carried out attacks using unmanned aerial vehicles. The recent incident in Bakhmut highlights the potential effectiveness of drones in combat situations. By targeting a gathering of Russian mercenaries, Ukrainian drones were able to carry out a devastating attack that resulted in the deaths of hundreds of soldiers. While the incident has been celebrated by some as a victory for Ukraine, it has also raised concerns about the ethics and legality of using drones in combat. One of the main questions raised by the incident in Bakhmut is whether the use of drones in this situation was legal. International law is still catching up to the use of drones in combat, and there is no clear consensus on the legality of using drones in situations where civilians may be at risk. Another question raised by the incident is the potential for escalation. While the attack on the Russian mercenaries may have been a successful tactic for Ukraine, it also raises the risk of retaliation by Russia. If Russia were to respond with a similar attack, it could lead to an escalation of the conflict and an increase in civilian casualties. Overall, the incident in Bakhmut underscores the ongoing tensions and violence in the region. While drones may be an effective tool for militaries in modern warfare, they also raise a number of ethical and legal questions. As the conflict between Ukraine and Russia continues, it will be important for As the conflict between Ukraine and Russia continues, it will be important for both sides to carefully consider the use of drones and other advanced technologies in combat situations. While drones may be effective in some situations, they also pose significant risks, particularly when civilians are present. In addition to the use of drones, the conflict between Ukraine and Russia has been marked by other forms of violence and aggression. Both sides have been accused of committing human rights violations, including extrajudicial killings, torture, and the use of forced disappearances. The ongoing conflict has also had a significant impact on the civilian population. Thousands of people have been displaced by the violence, and many have been killed or injured in the fighting. The conflict has also had economic consequences, with businesses and infrastructure being destroyed and the region's economy suffering as a result. Efforts to resolve the conflict have so far been unsuccessful. Diplomatic efforts have been made by both Ukraine and Russia, as well as by international organizations such as the United Nations. However, these efforts have not been able to bring an end to the conflict, and tensions remain high. One potential path towards resolution is through a negotiated settlement. This would require both sides to come to the negotiating table and agree to a ceasefire and a plan for resolving the underlying issues that have led to the conflict. This would likely require compromise on both sides, as well as the involvement of international mediators. Another potential solution is for the international community to increase pressure on both Ukraine and Russia to end the conflict. This could involve economic sanctions, diplomatic pressure, or other measures designed to encourage both sides to come to the negotiating table and work towards a resolution. Ultimately, the conflict between Ukraine and Russia is a complex and multifaceted issue that will require a coordinated and sustained effort by all parties involved. While the use of drones in combat may be an effective tactic in some situations, it is unlikely to bring an end to the conflict on its own. Instead, a comprehensive approach that addresses the underlying issues driving the conflict will be necessary if a lasting peace is to be achieved. One of the underlying issues driving the conflict is the question of Ukraine's sovereignty. Russia has long been interested in exerting its influence over Ukraine, and the annexation of Crimea in 2014 was seen by many as a clear example of this.